series, what this series is about is sort of beyond the minimum, I always like to call it. In other words, we know what the minimum is. You guys all know. That's why I wish we were all in the room together where I can ask you the question. But that's your multivitamin mineral. That's not negotiable. You know, proteins, you're getting a gram a pound of protein, you know, for the rest of your life every day, gram per pound. And then to help stave off the loss of muscle and to build muscle so you last longer and you recover better. And then, of course, you know, fish oil, if you're not getting, if you're not eating fish, you know, 2 to 4 times a week, and calcium if you're not getting that from your diet as well. That's the minimum. Everybody has to, your family, every client, every human being on the planet, we'd probably wipe out at least $1 trillion in healthcare if we ended up doing that, because we certainly all last longer. That's the minimum. What this series is about is beyond the minimum. And by the way, this is all, so this is stuff, what I've done is I know most of you don't have the time, even though you should have the time to read the PDSRG, the Practitioner Dietary Supplement Guide, that has all of the peer review quality support that builds these products. So they are the best in the world based on the total analysis of what should be in a joint product, what should be in an antioxidant that helps support whatever the claims may be. So what I do in this series is I take that information out and just put it in a few slides for you. And then I'm just going to talk you through that today. That's, again, on each one of these. So that way you've got it easy, because I know you guys are busy. But my first E, educate, learn something new every day and apply it to your field. There's nothing wrong with reading a couple paragraphs a day and then applying it to your field. But I'll do that for you today, so we're all set. Okay, so this is the second in the series, JointFlex. Next month will be the Ultra Probiotic. And our goal is to share everything about the JointFlex through social media so it attaches to you. So everyone in the club is talking about JointFlex, social media is talking about JointFlex, and you're talking about JointFlex. And we're talking about JointFlex when you're in there. So that's for May. Next month will be June. So that way we kind of get that whole groundswell going on with all this. Okay, so let's get started with this. Okay. We're not going anywhere. Let's just try it this way first. Sometimes you have to do this. There we go. Okay. So listen, because this is downloadable, as Kat said, I always start these off with what you're going to see right now. I'm not going to repeat it. All of you have seen me do this section. This is a piece of my place band lecture from around the world. But the reason I want it here, because I want you to always remember this. The reason we do this, the reason we talk about these things that are involved in our health and living longer and better, okay, this is what we do. We're doing it because we're trying to save the world through fitness. And we know we can. If we can grow strong and stay strong, listen, we've got some good bodies, which makes for good minds that can last long time, all the way around. Because you want your body to last as long as your mind, all the way to the end of the day. So you guys all know this, and that's why I always put this in here. When people ask, what does saving the world look like, and how do you do it through fitness? Well, very simply, what we're doing is this. All the things that our body didn't get as we grew up, we pay that price later on in life. Those are unavoidable shortages. They happen to everybody. And of course, we break down earlier because we're not supposed to live this long. But now that we do, we don't want to break down. So the idea is give your body all the brick and mortar throughout life. And joint support, we'll talk about in a second here, but throughout life in order to build a stronger structure that can stave off the early onset of disease and, of course, the aging process. And obviously, if you're more fit, you're going to be better. And if you're better and everybody's better, the world is better. So that's how we do it. And, of course, it doesn't work without you. That's why the last thing on an interview I always say is that it needs to be personalized. And that's why our trainers, because I'm not in the supplement business, I'm in the personal training business. I've got to give them the tools to make everyone they touch live better longer. Okay, so that's how you save the world of fitness. And this is the little piece there. I know you guys always like this. When you download this, you can use this any way you want. But remember, nutrition creates health, not medicine. So it really is a changing of the paradigm, if you will, with the mindset of everybody that comes into a gym. This is your first line of healthcare. Because I would easily argue people would rather go to the gym than a hospital. They'd rather take a simple, inexpensive dietary supplement to fill unavoidable gaps than take a drug to keep them alive that does other damage to their body. So again, there's no question about it. Nutrition creates health. Medicine does not. Medicine, of course, is disease care. So that's why I always like to say fitness is healthcare. You guys are the first line of preventatives on the preventative side. We take care of people's health when they have it. So think of it that way. I always want to we get the whole world to think that way. Can you imagine how busy you would be? Unbelievable for the rest of your life. Okay. So I always like this. So here's a nice little, you can always use this too. You can work with my staff now or their staff later. How do you want to start your day as you get older? You want to put your shoes on, go for a good walk like you always did your whole life, or do you want to, do what this guy on the right's doing? Same thing here. Get on your bike like you've always done your whole life, or a wheelchair. How do you want to end your day? With your family celebrating, or like most people end their days when they get older. All right. And that's why sports nutrition is tied into this thing. So this is how it all ties together. You guys know, sports nutrition is considered the new healthy aging. In other words, exactly what we do for athletes, every person should. Because what's the saying for athletes? Your next workout is only as good as your recovery from the last. Same thing in life. Your next day of life is only as good as your recovery from the last. If you don't put the things in your body that your body can use to keep rebuilding the trillions of cells that it rebuilds every day, don't forget, your body rebuilds all of its cells throughout your lifespan. And then it doesn't do a very good job when we get older, because we're really not supposed to be here. So it doesn't have all the stuff it needs to do that. But if we can supply the stuff it needs, that's the magic, to be able to at least continue to do the things we love to do. Maybe not as well when we were 25 or 30, but we're 90, 95. If we're going to live that long, we should be able to do all those things still, without a doubt. Anyway, and that's all about putting those things into your body. And that's having your play span match your lifespan. That's what the key is. You've all seen that. And this is nothing more than this. The green, of course, is the facts. Average life in the United States is 79. You should all know it's down to 78 now. For the first time in the history of our species, the Homo sapien, our lifespan has gone backwards. We're down to 78 now. And that is all diet related. Health span is 68. By that time, everybody's on medication pretty much. And they have at least one chronic disease. Some people, 50% have two. And then 35, at 35, most people stop doing the things that they've loved to do. But if we could just fill the gaps a little bit above that 35% that they're doing today, that's all people are doing. They're taking 35% of the recommendation. Move it to 50. Move it to 60. Look at that thing closing. That's the magic. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's what everything's about. And of course, the answer to that is just this. We just talked about it. These are the things that you need to do in order to be able to get your play span as close as your lifespan as possible. Those are the things that I've talked about on the road that I lecture around the world on right now. And those are factual, and everything's referenced there. So that's it. Okay. The bottom line is we're filling these gaps throughout, giving ourselves all it can use so the body can upregulate to continue to rebuild the cells every day, almost as good as when we were younger. And then, of course, stave off the inevitable as we get older by giving your body all the materials, all the brick and mortar it can possibly use. Okay. And that brings us to the next level beyond that. So what's beyond that? So again, the reason I reinforce that in the first 5 minutes, because you need to know that's baseline. That's baseline for an athlete. That's baseline for any human being, period, if you want to win the game of life, period. Now, beyond baseline, we have things like the superior antioxidant that we went through yesterday or last month, and today we're going to do the JointFlex. But what that's really about, what we're talking about, that is building on the minimum to enhance performance in each decade. So if our joints are certainly going to wear out if you live long enough, and our skin is also going to start to wear out, surprisingly enough, you guys, I'm 104 next week. What? See how good it works, the JointFlex? Okay. So the point is that these things are going to wear out. So by using things like JointFlexPlus, which is the BioCell collagen component, we're able to keep that joint functioning better longer. So in each decade of our life, rather than it being here, even though we can still do things that we were doing, we can do them better, longer. So that's the idea of taking some of these things on top of it. But you got to work with people's budgets. Not everybody can afford, like my shelf that's got the JointFlex, superior antioxidant, the probiotic, and of course, multi. I don't need a calcium. That's good news. I also don't need a fish oil because I eat fish 2 to 4 times a week. So I rarely have to do that, but most Americans do. But I'm just saying, so I can certainly afford it. You can afford it, and your family can, because you get everything at 40% off. Which is you're buying things that actually work cheaper than buying things in a discount in the mass market that don't work. So that's the good news for you. So at least you guys can, but your customers, sometimes you got to work budget on budget concerns. So always, that's the minimum we talk about. Now we go to the next level. And this could be just temporary. Any of these things could be temporary for anybody, even the JointFlex Plus. But let's get into it. So here we go. I always put this together like that little blue thing up there with a line under it takes you straight to the PDSRG. So you've got everything that you need there. Okay, so all I've done is taken the salient points out, put them in here for you so that you can actually go up and just download this thing and have everything you need to talk to a customer about, or you can show it to them, whatever you need to do. But the goal of JointFlex is pretty simple. We just talked about it. supply natural compounds in proper amounts, which are not available through diet, but shown to help joint and skin health. That's it. That's it. Nothing more than that. And the ingredients are these ingredients are the primary molecules needed to maintain connective tissue. And by supplementing the collagen type 2, the hyaluronic acid, chondroitin sulfate, the goal is to replenish these age-related losses of these necessary building blocks. But here's the magic. And these are, by the way, building blocks of connective tissue and the joint cartilage and skin. But now the magic's in that last paragraph. And that really truly is that the whole idea of it is that you have to make these things get into the body. In other words, that's really what's happening here. You've got to, by increasing this pool, it's not going to do any good if you just take it. You still got to get into the body. But if you increase this pool inside the body, then they're distributed throughout the body. It can also help maintain the extracellular matrix, and of the dermis below the skin, which is also crucial for the youthful skin appearance. So not just the joint, but all the way through the whole body. But the magic is really getting it into. You've got to be able to do it. You've got to be able to get it in there. Okay, so the rationale for joints, very simple. Obviously, we all know what osteoarthritis is. If we live long enough, we're all going to get it at some point. Okay, if you live long enough. It's a condition where the cartilage just doesn't replace itself very well. That's all. And you get a little pain in the knees, just like I have. I made a living with my body, so obviously I'm going to have those problems a lot earlier. But I can tell you right now, if it wasn't for using a product like the joint support for the last 15, 20 years of my life, there's no chance I'm walking or moving as well as I am today, because it just staved off all the bad things that were happening to it before then, up to that point. But at the bottom also, age, body weight, like we were just talking about, and injury risk, obviously increase the risk of development of osteoarthritis. So the goal is to mirror the molecular composition of your human cartilage, and that's what BioCell collagen provides. And it's really an effective replenishment of these three ingredients. So, but here's sort of the magic. I kind of was talked about it in the last slide as well. Is they found a way to get it into the body. When you look at glucosamine and chondroitin, which we used to use glucosamine and chondroitin. Now we still use chondroitin, of course, because that's very important for the extracellular matrix here. But glucosamine, it's very difficult to get into the body, and it really doesn't work as well as when you look to some of the comparison studies. But the magic here, what this company's been able to do, that make the BioCell collagen, which is their patent and name. They've been able to use it so that they reduce the size of the molecules, and now it can get into the body. And that really is the magic of this particular formula. And here's kind of a picture. This is the molecular structure of the BioCell collagen. You can see the hyaluronic acid. You've got chondroitin sulfate, the type 2 collagen, which is all natural to the joint. These are all pieces of what cartilage uses to rebuild itself. But again, the difficulty is getting it to the joint. And that's where the size reduction before it is put into the product is the magic. So it gets to the stomach, gets to the intestines, and most of it gets to the joint. And of course, the skin as well. So the rationale to type 2 collagen is, again, it's ideal because it's found in the human body. It's found in cartilage. And it also contains the hyaluronic acid and the chondroitin sulfate. And of course, hyaluronic acid is part of a huge part of lubricating, number one, but it also supplies raw materials. And then chondroitin sulfate, which is a major substrate for cartilage metabolism. And of course, it also brings water to the joint. And it stimulates the ECM production, which is by the chondrocytes, which is what is kind of on the outside of it, making the cartilage and coming back in to rebuild cartilage. And I put this little study in here. This is the first time we ever saw a study comparing this raw material. Now, this isn't our product here, but this is the raw material used in our product. So this was done back in 2004 or 5. And this is when we flipped over to this product. Glucosamine didn't fare nearly as well in pain scoring and movement as what either. So you can see the difference here between BioCell significantly reduced the pain compared to glucosamine and chondroitin. Back when that's all we used back in the Apex days, as you know, was glucosamine and chondroitin because that's all there was available. But once this passed it up, then we pass it on to our athletes, and all the other people that were using it, they all came back without a doubt, said much, much better, much more pain relief, and it seems to be working very well into staving off the process as well. And that's what we call empirical data. So from our experience, we know that this thing is significantly trumped glucosamine, and chondroitin. And this is probably the best study of all that I've seen on this. This was 70 days of the BioCell 2 versus placebo. And these are scores of movement and scores of pain. And they took the score, obviously a baseline score day 1, then 35 and 70. But that's why I tell people it probably takes 2 months before you get the maximum benefit. And by the way, you should know this, if you're not feeling any benefit after that, don't buy it. It's not helping. You've got something a little bit more serious going on there, and it's not going to make a difference. Now, could it still work to stave off it getting worse? Maybe, but I think you should feel a difference, certainly within the first 60 days, somewhere in there. But this study went out 70 days, and you can see a huge difference between this and placebo. I mean, that's pretty, and I think the most amazing stat on here, if you take a quick look, I've got to get up here. I don't see too well here. There were 89 participants in the study, and 80 out of the 89 subjects had the positive result. That's like pretty crazy, almost a miracle. So I mean, this stuff, let's face it, it works. Now let's flip gears to the skin. And that's kind of what happened here. I think when people started using it, people would say that about their skin. It just felt smoother, looked better. And then, so they actually did a skin study back in 2012 to find out what was going on here. And this is what was published. I mean, this is how it works, but we'll get to the next part here that shows you what the result was. But this shows you what the idea, this is what happens to age, the loss of collagen, which, happens, then the dermal layer of our skin collapses and the wrinkles form. That's what happens, okay? Kind of like the dried prune effect. Well, JointFlex here, this was the study here, this is what it showed. So at baseline, which would be the 100%, that's the way the wrinkles were. After week 12, look at the difference here. Huge reduction in the wrinkles and signs of aging. It's a big part in the scaling of the skin. So needless to say, when that happened, I can't keep it in my house. I've got a daughter and a wife here. The rest of their life, they're going to be taking a double dose of this thing. So I get it fairly cheap so I can afford it. But bottom line is it's changed everything. It probably tripled our sales overnight when that study came out. So well worth, no matter what, you're probably going to see a benefit in that. If it's not helping the joints, maybe just on the skin side, just to be able to stave off some of that. All right, so let's just summarize all this and then open it up for questions. Unique points and the difference. Adults with joint discomfort or overuse, generally they'd be older adults like myself, or even in their 40s, 50s, or whatever else. And then from there on out, kind of stave off. That's why, old age sets in pretty deep by the time you're in your 30s, unless you start doing something to your body, training, working out, taking all your supplements, then you can really stave it off and still actually stay very youthful. So again, that's the way the body normally does. But if we can supply the body these things that it's not getting anymore at that age, then we might be able to even do a lot more, a lot longer. And the big part is the patented formula, and it's well tested. These things here provide the building blocks, and they're improve joint viscosity to help maintain cartilage. So they're supplying the building blocks. And that patented process we spoke of reduces the molecule size so we can get it into the body. And on the skin side, that new study we just talked about, the ingestion actually enhanced the blood microcirculation and reduced facial aging signs, reduced wrinkles, improved skin tone, improved hydration, smoother and more supple skin. And a new study, because here's the number one question I get, so you don't have to answer it, you don't have to ask it today because I'm going to give you it now. Well, should I take it if I'm young? Should I take it if I'm just training heavy or like our athletes? Should I take it? I make a living with my body. What should I do? Does it make sense? Well, we could never really support that before. We were always at the point where, when the joint starts to get older and you're in your 40s, then we can support that. And especially if there's a little bit of pain there. But this new study that was just done it's actually published in 2017, but done in 2015, it found that it may offer connective tissue protection and recovery from intense exercise, which may prolong the athlete's lifespan. So if you're working out very intensely, at least at this point, it was a pilot study. So I'm not a guy that buys into one study or any of those kind of things, or even 2 or 3, you need more than that. But at least it did show a reduction in damage and a quicker recovery after 12 weeks of intense exercise. So again, maybe it is something that makes sense. But at the end of the day, no matter what, it's a two-for-one product. It's probably your best non-medical solution for joint and health, skin health. And the typical use, very simple. Anybody that, is for the joint to improve mobility, anybody that wants that has discomfort, knee joint strength, any of these things, and just problems from overuse. So that's the type of person that would use it. And then also these molecules may also help counter the effects of aging joints. Now, how do you take it? 1 capsule in the morning and 1 capsule at night. That's the standard thing, and that's what was done in the studies. I will admit I take 2, and I think that, and we do that for our athletes because again they can afford it. But they can taking 2 in the morning and 2 at night. So you can double the dosage until you get it cleared up, and then go back down to the 1 a day because it can be costly otherwise. But it's probably more effective at the 2 if you've got a lot of pain. It's worth getting up there. And anything's better than taking ibuprofen or Advil. They work better. No one's arguing that. I'll tell you that right now. This doesn't work better than Advil or ibuprofen. It can very close after the first 30 or 60 days. But the difference is if you're taking that for the rest of your life, you can take this for the rest of your life and remain healthier, actually. Take an Advil, so you've got, whether it be, ibuprofen, any of those things, if you take it for the rest of your life, you will shorten your life anywhere from 5 to 10 years because the kidney or liver gives out. I think 10,000 people die every year from just taking painkillers. And these are mild painkillers. It's just that it wears the liver out faster. Of course, this does nothing of that because these are all natural things already found in the body. But as you age, you just don't get that much. So again, I'm not trying to tell you, there's nothing's going to kill the pain like Advil or ibuprofen, but that's not the goal here. The goal is to keep the cartilage longer so you don't get the pain or reduce it so you can live with it so you don't have to take those things. That's the key because you will shorten your life taking those things. Okay, let's open it back up, Chad. We can close this up and then open this up over here. Kat, can you see the questions?
Yes, I can. And after the skin health study, I was sold. So I'm a 2 a day, morning and night.
That's because we can afford it.
And as a woman in my 40s, I'll take everything I can get for skin health.
That's right. Well, don't forget, I'm going to be 104 next week, so it's working pretty good for me.
Okay, so you guys can ask whatever you want. So Neil will say, as long as you like to ask a question, you simply have to open up the questions tab at the bottom of the GoToWebinar window and just type your question.
And it doesn't have to be about JointFlex. It can be just about placement. It can be about anything, kind of related to any of these things that we've been talking about the last couple months. And we're going to be talking about, next month. Continue.
I do see a few fitness managers on the call. Thank you for being on with your team. So just as a reminder, in the handout section of the GoToWebinar window, you can download the PowerPoint. There are hyperlinks to the actual educational video, which you can share with your team. I know Chancey's doing that up at Move. I saw her yesterday doing sort of a product of the week educational series for her team. You can also, it has a hyperlink to the supplement reference guide section with all the citations as Neil mentioned. So that's also a good little resource for you guys. So questions, has anybody got one? I see Jake, you're on with your team as well. Bernice, hi, I see you too. Chris out of Steve Nash. Dan out of Edge. So we've got a whole bunch of people representing fitness. Emily as well out of Nash.
We had a great ranch experience last Friday. We always have a great ranch experience, but we had 4 Edge people as usual. It was great. It was fantastic all the way around. And then we had some guys. The other one from Muth, South Carolina. That's right. Antonio.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay, so a couple questions are coming in. If you're raising your hand, we're recording the video, so we're not unmuting just for background noise. So if you don't mind just typing in your question into the questions tab, that would really help. Okay, question coming in from Gerard. I have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Chemo results in bone pain. Would this help?
You know what? That would be a clinical answer, and we, as you know, we stay away from that, and definitely not qualified to even make that judgment. However, there's no reason in the world you can't take it to your doctor and have them take a look at it and bless it. I think you guys know my mother-in-law had breast cancer, and she was taking, needless to say, a host of supplements. The sparing antioxidant and stuff like this. And she went to she'd had that when she had the breast cancer, and she wanted to take all this, and she took it to the doctor, and doctor said, perfect during the chemo, some of it. Some things you don't want during chemo because you're trying to actually kill something, and you don't want something that might, offset that part of it. So that's why it's very important you talk to your doc, and they'll bless. Most of them will actually understand because there's many things you do need to take to offset what's going on in chemo. And again, I'm non-clinical, so I can't answer that. So I think you would definitely want to talk to your doc about it.
I would agree.
Yeah.
The other question is, would this have any issues for people who have shellfish allergies?
This would not. This is not. This is actually from chicken sternum. So, right, Chad? Yeah, right. Yeah, cartilage from that. So, no, this is not a shellfish issue at all.
Okay. Okay, great. Pamela has a...
It's not a crustacean.
She says, hi, Neil. Thanks for teaching us about this. Is this product third-party tested?
Yes.
I read specifically heavy metals or lead can be a concern with collagen products because of the way it is derived from ground animal parts.
Well, the good news is you've got it right there on the label, NSF certified for sport, and by the way, you have no idea how strict they are on lead. The levels they allowed on lead, are way lower than the government does. So not only does it, without NSF certified for sport, it passes with lead levels very low. It passes what the government standards are. NSF has a much, much lower one. So basically not even measurable. So the answer is absolutely third-party tested for as low possible you can imagine with lead.
Which is really fourth-party tested, right, Neil?
Yeah, fourth time. Yes, yeah, that's the fourth-party test. But I mean, that's an interesting question because we have problems all the time where we have our third-party test and we pass all government standards without NSF. Then NSF throws a wrinkle into it by making it much more strict all the way around. So they're taking levels that were, say, nanograms of, you're allowed a certain nanograms of something like, cadmium or a heavy metal in a raw material. You can't clean it all out because it's coming from the earth. It's natural, right? So what happens is, then NSF does, so we have a threshold. The government sets a bottom line, your raw materials can't have any more heavy metals per kilo than this, of this thing. We always pass that on our regular third-party test. Then you go to NSF, certified for sport, and they've got to drop down to a place that's almost impossible. So you've got another whole test going on.
Pamela says that's helpful. Great. As a follow-up question, Neil,
right? Does
Chad want to add something?
Oh, that's Chad. I have Chad here, and he's our VP of product development. He was just saying, that NSF certified for sport BioCell collagen is a completely unique formula for us because their other one couldn't pass NSF testing. So there you go. Not that it's not okay to take their other ones that they sell around the world. Ours is just that much cleaner. That's all.
Okay. So follow-up question: are there plans to NSF certify other adopted products?
Yes. So in other words, as you see, almost everything we come out now is being NSF certified. Let me just kind of put that all together for you. Why isn't every one of our products NSF certified? Well, number one, and if you go to the Learn section under the supplement reference guide, the practitioner dietary supplement reference guide, and you click it on and go to the table of contents, you'll see manufacturer's update. You click on there and it'll tell you every one of our products and the third party that tests it. So every one of our products is third-party tested. Know that first. We have to do a fourth-party test if we want to sell into pro sports. So we took that on many, many years ago. And anything we sell into pro sports has to be NSF certified for sport. So therefore, we end up with another test that is almost just repeating the first test, other than whatever rule they may stick in there for a heavy metal like we just described, which is unusual. That's rare. I'm saying that was a perfect example. That's why I like the fact that someone asked the question and Chad was here about making a different one. But other than that, it's the same. They come out exactly the same. But it costs a fortune. So for me to NSF certify something, it's an extra $25,000, $30,000 that I've got to give. I've got to somehow recoup that. So it brings the price up a few bucks here, a few bucks there. Well, there's no reason to do it for something I'm not going to sell into pro sports where they have to have it, because it's already third-party tested and it comes out the same. So the same rigor goes on. It's a fourth-party test just to get the seal, and I almost call it extortion. So, and I don't mean that in a bad way or anything. I'm just saying it's like, but it does. That's why, and we are the largest distributor in all pro sports and college sports of dietary supplements. So, we do it for that. So unless it's going to be used in there, we're probably not. Now you'll see, but what's coming up next, as you know, vitamin D came out, and that's every athlete. The second they walk into a room is told to take vitamin D, take almost 4,000 IUs a day. So we had to get that beyond the multi. So we did that one, of course, and then of course the JointFlex. But I'm just saying, but the only we couldn't do is we couldn't do the probiotic by NSF. We wanted to because athletes are all taking probiotics. But the reason we couldn't is because our strain is too complicated for NSF to figure out. It's done by DuPont. It is really the next generation probiotic. So it is the quintessential probiotic. And we third-party test it, so I'm not worried about it. My boys are both professional athletes and both drug tested, and they've always passed their tests. So, we know that's probably a better filter than an NSF certification. Run them through your own kids that are pro athletes and being tested regularly. Yeah, and the same thing for cats. So anyway, so not everything will be, but Creatine XXL, the next batch of that will be NSF certified for sports, so that'll be cool. So not everything, but most things, as you see, that are certainly necessary will.
Excellent, very cool. And the main thing that NSF also adds is screening for over 200 banned substances, which of course is important for. But for Tito's point, every product is third-party tested for purity, potency, tested for lead levels, etc. So you're good to go there.
Yeah.
Chris Wyndham.
And I just don't want to raise the price, unnecessarily. That's the point for us.
Right. Chris Wyndham out of Nash. Hey, Chris asks, would JointFlex help with acne scars? Good question.
That's a fair question. I wouldn't have any idea. I've never seen a test that way or any of those things. Hey, but the good news is it'll help with the rest of the stuff we talked about. So that would be about it. I couldn't answer that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tricky today. You are tricky today.
Okay, Antonio Grimm, right? He was just at the ranch.
Oh, he's on. Okay.
He's asking.
By the way, Antonio's got a son going on. Got a full D1 ride for football. Going to
congratulations.
Yeah. Furman. Yeah, in Virginia. Yeah, so good luck on that one. Great. We're sending our athlete off to college.
That's right. So he wants to know, what was that?
I said, what's up, Antonio?
Yeah. He wants to know what would be the age of recommendation for kids that are very active and play multiple sports.
I wonder who he's talking about. You know what, Antonio, I'll tell you, I never put my kids on the joint support. Nelson, after that devastating knee injury he had his first year in the NFL, we started using it then to help with the healing process, and now he just takes a kind of maintenance dose regularly. But Zane's never took on my other son. I can't support that. I just showed you that pilot study though, and that pilot study showed these were young people. These were in their 20s and 30s that they were used to show that they do recover. It's certainly not going to hurt anybody, but I don't know if I would take somebody's money without the support to do that. So in your case, it's your kids, so completely different. There's no reason you wouldn't, but I can't give you a case, or I can't support the fact that it might help all the way around at this particular point, because they're still those joints do a pretty good job all the way up until like their late 20s, just from the activity and making sure you've got your multivitamin with all its vitamins and minerals in it to help the recovery process itself and enough protein and so forth. So they do a good job with that. By the time you get into your late 30s, though, it doesn't do a good job. So prolonging an athlete's career. So I think you're probably okay. I can't tell you to do it. It's not going to hurt to find out. And maybe 10 years from now, I'm going to be wrong, and they'll say we should be doing this all when we're 22 if we're an athlete. Who knows?
Okay. Any more questions, you guys? That's it for the questions, Neil. Thank you, everybody, for being on. One last chance. Caleb, I see you're raising your hand. If you don't mind typing in a question in the questions window, that way we can share it with the
Unless
group.
you can just unmute her real quick if you want.
I can't. I don't have that capability.
Yeah, you don't have that capability. Okay.
No, I don't. Okay, so thank you to everybody. Remember to download that handout.
Yeah, and then one more thing. I'll just say, just so you guys know, you guys all know my email, and I give it to you guys all the time. I answer them all the time. Is Neil, Neal, @dotfit.com. So anything you didn't have time to ask a question or whatever, just send it to me. Send it.
Yep, and mine's kat@dotfit.com. So if you guys want to reach out, we're here to do the best we can answering your questions. Don't forget to download the handout for your team and to use it as a reference. And also, Neil, I know you talked about it, but once again, a reminder about next month's educational webinar. is on?
Probiotic.
Okay, so it's on the
we're just kind of sticking with the health series. We're sticking with the health series right now. And by the way, the rest of the stuff that we're not doing in this series throughout the year is in the new certification. So for all of you that have not taken the new certification, which was released in January, so the only certification you could have taken since January is the new one. But if you took one previously, you need to go through it. You know, it's not going to cost you anything. If you're already certified by the one, we set a deal for all of our big accounts so that you guys can get it for basically nothing more than the seat cost, you know, in the LMS that's delivering it. But it's got all the latest stuff, the latest formulas. It's 4.5 hours of just fantastic, very, very interesting content that kind of takes what you guys are doing to the next level, but very simply put together. So these things we're talking about now are outside that cert.
Great. So take the new cert, and then next month we'll be talking about the microbiome and ultra probiotics. So thanks for being here, guys.
That's right.
Have
Thanks,
a good
everyone.
one. All right.
Have a great one.
Bye.